What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends X-Men 80 Years, Marvel's Colossus and the Juggernaut. So here we have Colossus and Juggernaut posed and out of the packaging. Before we take a look at the figures, let's actually take a look at their accessories. We'll go over Colossus first because he does come with the fewest, and all he gets is 2 pairs of hands. We do get a pair of fists. We also do get a pair of clinching hands for Colossus, and that's all we really get. I don't know what more you would want. Maybe a yelling expression head, but unfortunately we didn't get that. Still love the way this figure came out, though. And having a look at Juggernaut's accessories, he does get the most out of the bunch. We do get 2 different head sculpts. We do get one head sculpt where he has his helmet on and he has a menacing grin. We also do have one where he has his helmet off and he is a little bit beat up, which looks really good. And then we also do get a battle damaged helmet, which again looks really nice and does go on the head where he's all beat up. We also do get 2 pairs of hands. We get a pair of fists for Juggernaut. We also do get a right grasping hand. And then we also do get an open left hand. So Juggernaut here does come with the more accessories out of the bunch, which is perfectly okay. So what we're going to do now is actually take a closer look at each figure individually. And so here we have a better look at Colossus, and Hasbro has done a really good job on some aspects of this figure. There are some things that could have been done better, but first, what it is, some things are done really well. Such as this head sculpt. Now, we have seen this head sculpt for Colossus before. It's the exact same head that we got with the Warlock series Colossus, not the one with the beard, but it still looks good painted in this chrome silver. So I really do like that, and the hair is this really nice buzz cut or flat top, which again, that's pretty much how Colossus looks. Really like the silver that they went with. It's a really nice metallic silver, so it reflects light perfectly well. Can't say enough good things about that head sculpt. Taking a look at his body, I really like the way Hasbro did this. Now, the way they did his torso, it appears that it's 2 pieces. We have a rubbery, softer piece that went on top, and then it is laid over his base torso. Now, it is 2 parts. You can see a seam line right here. So basically what it is, it's kind of like an overlay that this goes on, but it's not supposed to come off. It's actually glued on, and it does have a key on it, so it does fit on the torso really nicely. It almost looks flush, except for some parts. You can see right here on the neck, it's not properly attached, but that's gonna happen from figure to figure, so I'm perfectly okay with that. Now, the yellow on him could be painted a little bit better. It is sloppy. And then right here on the back, you can see a whole lot of slop. Hasbro got really sloppy on the back of this figure. Yeah, it's not going to be noticeable because you're mainly going to be looking at the front of the figure, but care should be given to both the front and the back of the figure. Having a look at his arms, I really do like the arms from the elbow up to the shoulder. That's a really nice design. It's big, it's bulky, it looks menacing. Now, that's about all I can say about the arms. He does have absurdly large forearms. Now, I have no idea why they even sculpted his forearms that thick. It's thicker than his entire arm, and it gets really bad because instead of getting thinner at the wrist, it gets thicker for some reason, and having these wristbands does not make it any better. It actually looks even worse, especially looking at his fist. They look tiny compared to his arm. Like if you were to take that wristband off, you can see it doesn't even... that's such an ugly forearm. Why did they do that? So yeah, that could have been done so much better. Really like the belt on Colossus here. It looks good. This gold is painted really well, and I love the red band going across it. And then the X is done really cleanly. I have seen some people's where the X is sloppy. Thankfully, mine is done really well. So, good job on Hasbro's part there. Then we also do get his boots, which for some reason have this part coming up from the knee now. Far be it from me judge Colossus's sense in fashion, but I never really understood why he had these flaps going over the knees and up to the thigh and then having this part exposed. It looks accurate. It's just one part of his design I was never keen on, but really like the paint apps on it. And it's sculpted. You don't see that too often, that a company will actually go in and sculpt and paint the detail in, so really good job there. And then those go on to his feet. Now he does have absurdly, or not absurdly, but they are kind of big feet. I know a lot of people are not okay with it, but I'm perfectly okay with it. It's a boot. It's not supposed to be the actual size of his foot, so that's one thing I can let slide. So overall, Colossus is a hodgepodge of good, bad, and ugly, and then some things I'm just okay with. So that's Colossus for you. So let's actually move on to Juggernaut. And so here we have a closer look at the Juggernaut, and Juggernaut is one of my favorite X-Men characters, and I really like the way this figure came out. I think it's a little bit better than the Build-A-Figure that came out. There are some things I like about this figure that I like more on it than the Build-A-Figure, but there's still some things that I don't like. Now, we'll have a look at the helmet first. Now, it's a completely smooth helmet that actually fits the body better than the Build-A-Figure. The Build-A-Figure's helmet was a little bit small and it had texture on it. Now, this helmet is nice and smooth, so I really do like that. And as you can see, it almost goes all the way to his shoulders, which that's pretty much how you imagine Juggernaut's helmet to be. Now, that does bring up some problems because this is smooth. His armbands have the same texture. Now, you can chalk it up that his wristbands, armbands, and brass knucks got damaged. So what about his helmet? How is that still smooth? Is he protecting it at all times? I don't know. Really like that face sculpt. I love the head sculpt on the original Juggernaut, and it's the exact same one, just with whited out eyes and a little bit of shading in there just to make it a little menacing. Although just his size alone makes him menacing as it is. Now, one thing I didn't notice is that if you try to force joints too much, his arms do pop off. Now, he is essentially the Build-A-Figure, so that's going to be normal. You just got to take caution on it. Everything I loved about the Build-A-Figure moves over to this guy. I really love how the sculpt work on his chest is. He's this big, broad, hulking, just a brick wall. He's as wide as a house, basically. Really like the detailing on his arms. You can see all his veins popping out. Really, really love the texturing on the armbands, wristbands, and the knuckles. Although, again, these should be smooth because his helmet is also smooth. There should be some symmetry in there, but it still looks nice. He has these really massive hands, and that's the way it is. Juggernaut's always drawn with these really big hands, and that's pretty much how this figure looks. Now, one issue I do have, and it's a tiny, tiny issue, is that little chip of paint. Unfortunately, mine has a tiny little paint chip there. I'm not going to say that this figure sucks because of it, but it's in the front and it's quite noticeable. So that sucks, and I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. Now, just like the Build-A-Figure Juggernaut, you can see the difference between molded plastic and painted plastic. This part is molded, this part is painted. My camera is kind of showing them the same thing, but in person you can kind of see a difference between the two. And then we go down to his boots, where he still has that reddish brown tights going to his boots, which have a really lovely texture on them. Juggernaut here is just really beautiful. I really love the original Build-A-Figure Juggernaut, and that carries over to this figure, and I'm already going to say that this Juggernaut makes the 2-pack worth it. Having a look at his boots, you can see they painted the undersides of his boots and gave him treads. So overall, Juggernaut here is a beast of a figure. He's massive, he's big, he's hulking, just the way Juggernaut should be, so I really do like that. So with his detail out of the way, let's actually compare Colossus and Juggernaut to other figures you may have in your collection. Here we have Colossus posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Colossus posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure in a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Colossus posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger in a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. And finally, here we have Colossus posed next to the original Warlock series Colossus. And so here we have Juggernaut posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops in the DC Multiverse Superman by Mattel. Here we have the Juggernaut posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure in a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Juggernaut posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger in a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. And finally, here we have Juggernaut posed next to the original Build-A-Figure Juggernaut. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually have a look at their articulation. Let's move Juggernaut off to the side for one moment so we can have a look at Colossus's articulation. He does have a ball joint in the head. He can look up about that far. Can't really look down, so he just has an up and down movement. We do have some slight head tilt, which works fine. Turns left and right, no problem. Does have a hinge in the neck, which lets him look up to about that far. Looks down all the way. He does bury his head into the chest with that. His arms do go out to the side, only to about there. I kind of would have liked to see a little bit more range on Colossus right there. Arms do a full 360. Not at all hindered because this is a rubber piece and it does get out of the way, so that's really good. We do have bicep swivel, which works no problem. Single bend at the elbow, not even 90 degrees, so that could be better. And then we have swivel and hinges at the wrist, although the hinges on mine are really tight, so do heat those up before you try moving them around. He does have an ab crunch, which goes back about that far. Goes forward all the way, so I do like that. We do have a swivel underneath the belt, so that works fine. Legs kick out to 90 degrees. They kick back, go out. Much better than Spider-Man figures. I wonder why that is. He does swivel at the thigh, has a double bend at the knee, goes up all the way, no problem. No boot cut swivel, but we do have a hinge in the ankle. And then we also do have forward-facing pin for rocker ankle. So that's Colossus's articulation. Let's move him off to the side so we can focus on Juggernaut. Now, Juggernaut here has the same articulation from the original Build-A-Figure series, but he does have a hinge in the neck, which does let him look up to about that far. He can look down about that much, so we do get some nice range with that. Does, of course, rotate at an off angle. Unfortunately, he can't tilt his head too much because of the helmet, but there is some head tilt in there. Arms do a full 360, no problem. Go out, and again, if you try forcing it past 90 degrees, you will pop his arm out of socket, but that can be put back in, no problem. He does have a really nice bicep swivel, which works fine. Single bend in the elbow, giving us not quite 90 degrees, but it still works. We do have a swivel and hinge at the wrist, so that works no problem. Having a look at his torso, he can crunch back about that far, so it's not the farthest we've seen. But he can have a really deep crunch for those poses where he's just breaking through walls, so I do like that. Legs do go forward to about there, which is acceptable for a man of his stature. Legs do go out to the side. Not too great, but again, it's acceptable for a Juggernaut. We do have swivel at the thigh. Single bend at the knee. Works pretty good. We don't get a full 90 degrees, but it is there. We do have a hinge at the foot, which does go forward. Not quite. Goes back quite a ways. And then forward-facing pin for rocker ankle. So overall, pretty decent articulation on both Juggernaut and Colossus. So what we're going to do now is get them posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have Colossus and the Juggernaut posed for my final thoughts, and overall this is a really nice set. Now the main reason you want to pick this set up is if you missed out on the original Build-A-Figure for Juggernaut, and if you need a Jim Lee style Colossus. Now I already had a Colossus and Juggernaut in my collection. I think this is a much better figure than the Build-A-Figure, more accurate to the Jim Lee color scheme, so that's one plus that this figure has. And on another plus, I did need a Jim Lee style Colossus, because there's nothing wrong with the Warlock series Colossus. I'm just more fond of the Jim Lee style costumes for the X-Men, and having this Colossus in my collection kind of feels like I completed something, because this was the final figure I needed for my Jim Lee X-Men display. At least for the X-Men, I still need some Brotherhood of Mutants, and this Juggernaut isn't too far off from what Jim Lee inspired Juggernaut should look like. So in the end, this is a really nice set. If you're a fan of classic X-Men like I am, you're going to want to have this set in your collection. Now, Colossus does have a few issues, especially with his anatomy. I normally don't care too much for figure anatomy. However, it's really hard to overlook those massive Popeye-sized forearms. Now, for a Popeye, that would be fine, but this isn't Popeye. This is Colossus. That's one thing I really wish Hasbro would have taken a little more care in, is giving him proper-sized forearms, but that's neither here nor there. Now, if you are looking for this set, I haven't seen it in stores in a really long time. I think the only place I've seen it is specialty stores such as FYE and GameStop, and your local comic book stores. Now, I did pick up this set from my local comic book store, so a huge shout out to the good folks of Black Sheep Comics for getting this out to me so I could review it for you guys. I know it came out last year, but I'm just barely picking it up. There were a few things I needed to pick up before this, but I'm still glad to finally have the Jim Lee Colossus in my collection. If you're an X-Men fan, you're going to want to have this up there with your X-Men. And I'm KingofDragons 5000 saying, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and check out all my other action figure reviews, as well as all my other Marvel Legend and X-Men videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it fits in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.